Good afternoon, Greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we have got Zillow turning into a housing bear and some interesting developments in the market with surging concessions. Some controversy in Washington, big surprise there where President Trump may want to fire Jerome Powell. I'd like to see how that works out. We're going to talk about that next. We also have new seller advisory forms from EXP compared to the Compass private exclusive form as people continue to talk about the clear cooperation policy. And lastly, there's a Florida bill to get rid of the Florida Real Estate Commission that just is entering the legislature. So we're going to talk about all that next. If you get some value out of this, you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team, specifically Sarah, many happy listeners have used her services and gotten great results. We just closed on one. Excellent result there. She's the person to talk to. You can schedule a call with Sarah in the link in the comments. So, Sarah, we got this Zillow downgrading the U.S. home price forecast. So they've turned into a housing bear here. And Zillow downgraded their 12-month forecast for the third month in a row, now projecting a 1.7% year-over-year drop in U.S. home values by March of 2026. What's your reaction to all this? Surprising, not surprising?
Not surprising, but I think we also have to keep in mind that this is national. So,
yes.
What that real estate for most people is very local. So, some of those national numbers can be a little bit misleading. But no, I'm not totally surprised. But I guess one thing that is slightly surprising there is for some of these national numbers, we talk a lot about how new construction we don't have a ton of new construction here compared to other areas in the country where there is a lot of new construction. We are predicting new construction prices to increase based off of tariffs and a number of other factors there. So that might offset things slightly, but I'm assuming that they factored that into this. So yeah.
I would imagine they did. And Resi Club, they put together kind of like a heat map here. I just dropped it in the show sheet for you. And what they're showing is they use like a dark red to a dark blue, and it reflects what prices are going to do. And when you get like a beige color, like the peach curtains your mom used to hang up, we had a lot of peach in our house. That's why I'm talking about this. That's kind of like a 0% appreciation. So there's some hot spots here like New Orleans, Austin, some places along the Sun Belt, as well as in California, where we're seeing there's going to be more of a decline in home price change. And then the Northeast is pretty much level. I mean, you might be seeing, New York, the 12-month price forecast is negative 2.4%. Philadelphia is negative 1%. So they're flat. I mean, that's really what the numbers are here. The bigger thing I'm seeing, my takeaway from this is not so much that this is a surprise, but that the market's slowing down a little bit. You're not seeing, for every home that has these multiple offer situations, there's homes that are sitting on the market right now, that there's an opportunity to get the home without being in a super competitive situation. Now, this doesn't mean prices are going down. This means they're down from the peak. So the estimated value, if you were to go on like Zillow's estimate, that number may be changing, but it doesn't mean prices are declining. And, I think this is notable. Skylar Olson, the chief economist for Zillow, said that more sellers came out to test their luck as rates ticked down in March, but home sales did not keep up. Buyers, especially first-timers without equity to put into their down payment, continue to struggle with affordability and now are facing even higher levels of uncertainty. A turbulent economy likely weighs more heavily on first-time buyers than more firmly established sellers. So she describes the market as healthier than it's been in years, meaning that it's not favoring sellers dramatically like it has been since 2020. Are you feeling that in the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly with some different listings out there that aren't moving, needing to have conversations about expectations and kind of where we can make adjustments. And then for buyers, I've certainly noticed some opportunity.
I agree there. And that you've had to have some of these conversations about adjusting price. How difficult is that for people? I mean, it's obviously uncomfortable. I
Sure.
think for not for great agents, because they know they need to do that to serve their clients. But when you're first going through that, and you thought the home was going to sell and it didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all been there. Every agent's been there. What's your mindset going into those conversations now, and how are you breaking them down? Because this is something that sellers aren't used to hearing, and their expectations, like we talked about last week, most of them think their home's going to sell for the asking price.
Right. So it can go a couple different ways. If it's one that we've had the listing for a while, it's not usually an out of the blue call for me where I just say like, okay, I think we need to do a price adjustment. It's usually something that we've like touched on leading up to it. And there are things that we can point to show that, whether it's, views that aren't translating into showings, or showings that aren't translating into offers, or showings where the feedback specifically says overpriced. Those are things where it's like, listen, the market determines the price. So, and maybe both the seller and myself did expect it to go where we had listed it at. But if we're not getting that offer, at that point, the market is rejecting that price. And at that point, you've got a couple different options. You can hold out and wait for the right buyer to come in if you've got the time, if you can carry it. It all depends on your situation. In those situations, there's things pointing to why we need to do this. There's data that you can give them. And I would have kind of touched on this with like, hey, this isn't something we need to do today, but like, let's give this another week and then, see what happens here. For properties that, going into the listing that they're priced a little aspirational, I like to have the conversation at the time, and the seller is in the driver's seat. They get to, if they want to list at a certain price, I just want to have that conversation with them up front that, yeah, let's test the market. Let's go for it. But if we're not seeing this, and this, we need to be prepared to do an adjustment, within like a week or so that we're not wasting a lot of time. And we're not losing that momentum that you typically get when you first come to the market. So I think if you like set the stage right, it takes some of the sting out of it.
I agree there. And, setting expectations means a lot, right? Like when you're going to hear from me, like what the average time on the market is. And when you use data to educate clients, some people, they get nervous when their home's not sold after the first weekend, which is incredible to me because that was never the case until we got into the pandemic era of real estate and that really hot run that was unprecedented. So, that's something that you have to let them know. I think giving them, hey, let's stay the course. Let's give it a little more time. We've got some more people coming in. I had this conversation with a client today. We have 5 showings scheduled today and tomorrow. They're talking about moving prices. It's probably not the right time if you got people already booked to look at it. Now, if nothing happens from those, let's regroup. And then what you're doing as an agent, and this goes a long way for consumers as well, is they know when they're going to hear from you. So they're not freaking out about that because uncertainty leads to lack of trust. That's really important. So these are all the skills you need to have. And it's not easy, but if it was easy, everyone would be listing and selling tons of homes all the time. And that's just not the case. So the other thing to look at here is that the latest forecast from Zillow, there may be some caution there because they've been continually making downward revisions. And now this isn't what everyone's saying. Resi Club and Lance Lambert, not all housing forecasters are playing the same tune. And Zillow's bearish stance might overlook opportunities in the Northeast and the Midwest where tight inventory works in the seller's favor, which I agree with. That's why you're talking about national versus local. So, and Fannie Mae's predicting a modest 1.7% rise in home values, while Fargo's forecasting 3%. So just because Zillow is saying one thing, remember, there's all kinds of forecasters. Most of them are going to be wrong. And there is some question whether the impact of tariffs, the rise in material costs, I mean, those are heavier new construction markets in the South and in the West, that may be why there's this downward trajectory here.
Yeah.
All right. So there's also some news, and I think this is, this all ties together here because this is wild to me. So we know that the President Trump wants lower mortgage rates. I mean, he's been pretty clear, and last week he basically declared war on Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, and there's a question of, can the president of the U.S. fire a Fed chairman because he doesn't agree with his policies? You ever see like Anchorman? Right, like this escalated quickly. Like when they're in the fight, and I guess he killed someone with like a Triton or something. So, since he was inaugurated, the president has made it clear he wants Powell to lower rates, which hasn't happened. And on Thursday, President Trump said Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. And on Friday, the White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said Trump and his team were studying whether Trump could fire the Fed chair, which is interesting because he also appointed him in the last term. But, things don't always go well. You hire people, you fire them. I get it. And this is pretty interesting. And there's a Housing Wire columnist. You guys know him, Logan Mohtashami. He's a contributor there. He thinks that Trump's going to use national security as his reason for firing Powell, since he used national security as the rationale for tariffs. I mean, one, do you think this is going to happen? And, if it does, is that going to do anything? I mean, because there's all these like Federal Reserve like people. It's not just Jerome Powell. There's many voting members.
Right. I mean, I thought that a key part of that position was that you were not supposed to be subject to political sway, right? Like it's strictly supposed to be like you're an economist. So am I surprised that he's trying to like fire him? No. Do I hope that he is unable to? Yes. Just because like that's not going to solve, I don't think that's going to solve the problem. Like I feel like I think that he would likely throw what is that, like spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
I don't think it's spaghetti, but let's go with that one.
Like I think who'll try throwing multiple different, that didn't work. All right, well then let's say it's national security. Oh, that didn't work. Well then let's say it's this, and then eventually it'll either work or it won't work. But no, it's not surprising that he wants to fire the economist, who again is not supposed to be swayed by political parties.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he should be able to do it. I mean, they're studying it, and if it's within his rights, fine. But that's not really how this is supposed to work, from what I understand. I'm certainly not like some Washington expert.
Oh, right.
I know you're not either.
I am not.
That's okay. I got better things to do, like sell houses. So when you look at this here, I think trade wars are hard, right? I mean, what's been going on with these tariffs, and I think I'm not going to argue with what's right or what's wrong here. But when you look at the economy, I think people are just really uncertain right now. And for Trump's policies to work, rates got to come down, which is what he's looking for. I mean, that's now the challenge we got is unemployment has been persistent at around 4.2%. I mean, it's hung there. The economic data showed a slowdown in the labor market before this started happening. Job growth was declining. And then higher mortgage rates, they put home builders at the risk of laying people off as their confidence sinks. And then you've got residential construction workers. If you lose some of those, that can affect the job market as well. So the Fed has had a very restrictive policy, and obviously the government's been firing a lot of people and withdrew money from the economy. So these policy changes are hopefully you're going to see unemployment. Not hopefully, I don't think this is good, but I think the intention is you see unemployment go up and job creation go down. They need lower rates and energy prices to really help consumers here. And I think that's also like the big sticking point in the housing market. But if rates did go down, I would say we're going to have even more of a supply issue than we have right now.
Right. Like, yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, just imagine if rates like dropped to 6.5 tomorrow.
Right.
It would not, Skylar Olson's talking about we're in a healthier market than we've seen. That's out the window. So I think that that's a real challenge here. So I don't know if this is going to be a good thing, but I know why the president's trying to do that. And then, to boot, I think the third point here is that when you look at the deal information, there was an article on Inman where they talked about what happened in the first quarter of 2025 with seller concessions. So this has to do with people like trying to sweeten the deal, or like you give a credit, you offer inspection repair credits, those sort of things. The first quarter had 44.4% of home sellers offering concessions, short of the 45.1% at the start of 2023. And these range from covering repairs, helping buyers with mortgage rate buy downs, which makes a lot of sense. And this isn't compensation, this is concession. And seeing that number as high as it is, I mean, that's almost 2 out of 5. It's more than 2 out of 5 home sellers giving concessions to buyers. You're right below the peak of when this happened. And the first time it peaked was like around when COVID-19 happened. So
would that specifically be totaling like money that was given as a concession?
Yeah.
Not that the seller did the repairs themselves.
No, yeah. So it's concessions toward repairs or towards mortgage rate buy downs, or sometimes it's like there's a special assessment with the condo association.
Right. And then it's not factoring in like a percentage or how much, just like if any was given or not.
It's just any, yeah. It's
gotcha.
1 cent or 0 is kind of the statistical way to look at this. So, and a lot of people are speculating it could be cautious buyers. It could be growing competition among sellers. Housing supply did hit a 5-year high in the first quarter. And again, this is national numbers. So I think you're going to see this in more places than not. I mean, builders do this all the time. Yeah. So are you seeing a lot of concessions being offered?
Yes. Not like a crazy high, not that the amount of it is super high, but that a concession is being given. I have seen, and often where I've got 2 cases recently that are like top of mind, where it was, you're so far into the deal, you're not gonna, the last thing either party wants to do is have it terminate over what is in the grand scheme of things, like a minor issue. Like in both cases, I'm thinking it was just a few $1,000s, where if that's what gets it over the finish line, you've already like gone through all of the steps. Like I think as you're reviewing offers, like if you have a seller and as you're reviewing offers and you're looking at like strengths and weaknesses and what's going to get you to the settlement table with the amount that's being offered, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, the one with the least amount of risk is going to be the one without inspections, without, any of these different items that could impact that number. Once you've accepted an offer and you've gotten through, the inspections and you've negotiated things out or whatnot, or you've just gotten so close to it being done, you're a lot more likely to be willing to give a small concession to get this done versus like to start all over.
I agree with that. And that's probably a smart seller, because once you get down that road and you're like weeks away, I mean, there's carrying costs involved. There's risk involved. If you already moved out, you have to deal with like vacancy insurance, which is a whole problem. So,
or even like final walkthrough things that come up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like you're within a week, you're within days, sometimes it's the next day.
Of course. Yeah.
That like you just want to work it out.
Well, that's the pragmatic thing to do, because a lot of times you got to deal with these issues if they don't buy it anyway, which a lot of folks don't think of. So the markets where we saw the largest increase were, I don't think there's any surprise here, Seattle, Portland, Oregon, Atlanta, Georgia, San Diego, Denver, LA, San Antonio. Philadelphia was on the list. I mean, and if you look at the 2024 to 2025 change, looking at this chart here, it looks like it was around like 23%. And this is just based on the chart here. It looks like it's probably up a few percentage points. So we are seeing this more. And, there's, affordability is a real issue for a lot of folks, which I think is the reason why you see people like Zillow saying that, hey, we might need to downgrade the forecast. Now, I don't agree that we're going to see prices go negative. I don't see that happening at all. That's a national number. And a lot of these indicators, I mean, you look at single family permits, single family start. There's a lot of data here to digest. So rather than getting all that, I think you're going to see some people that are going to be a little more bullish. Some are going to be a little more bearish. The point is the market is changed a lot than where it was 2-3 years ago. And that's what you really need to keep in mind as a seller when it comes to pricing your property. I think it's all the more reason to get the price right from the beginning instead of that aspirational strategy.
Yep.
And a buyer, I'm looking at days on market. That is like the best indicator out there to see if you can maybe do a little better on something. So it's gonna really help you identify where the opportunities may be in the market.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about more clear cooperation. These forms are very interesting. I don't know if we were supposed to get copies of these forms, but we got them. We're going to talk about them. EXP's seller advisory form versus the Compass private exclusive form, and a wild card that nobody's talking about yet next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about these new forms that are coming out, the very two-sided debate about clear cooperation. And we've got copies of the EXP new seller advisory form as well as the Compass private exclusive. I think it shows both ends of this here. We're going to explain them. So if you're a consumer listening, I'd be paying attention so you know what you're getting into. If you get some value out of this or you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with Sarah specifically about whether you should pre-market your home or not, or what all this stuff means, you can do that with the link in the comments. So I think we're pretty clear about this clear cooperation stuff, that seller choice is the best way to go. Now, what I get a little nervous about is that you have these forms. So EXP, they're a cloud-based national company. They have this. They have a growing seller toolkit, and it's an open source seller advisory form. And what this form does, it basically just explains the risks of like going on the MLS and not going on the MLS. And it's a one-page form. It talks about the downsides of withholding listings from major portals, specifically Zillow after their announcement last week. And they number them: limited buyer exposure, financial risk, longer time on the market, no public portals. This reminds me, if you looked at the form, it's kind of like that the new policy disclosures, the MPC disclosures. It says like all the four big changes. And I think it's very educational, makes a lot of sense. But then you got this other form from Compass, and this was posted in the Lab Coat Agents Facebook group. That's how I got a copy of all this. And Compass has this addendum to listing agreement, and it's the Compass 3-phased marketing strategy. And they talk about it, which gives you multiple opportunities to make a first impression prior to your property being offered to the MLS if you choose. And then they break down the Compass private exclusive, which markets your property privately to Compass agents and their clients. The Compass Coming Soon, which markets your property publicly on Compass.com in compliance with MLS rules, and then listing through the MLS. And I read through these forms. I don't know how much you read through them. I mean, it looks like there's two very different approaches here. What do you think about all this?
So Compass is like stages there, saying we want to start you with private exclusive, and then
you go to Compass Coming Soon, and then you go to publicly advertising on the MLS. So they actually says right on the form here, I authorize Compass to list my property. I understand that by listing the property as Compass private exclusive, the property will not be publicly advertised through the MLS, but will be available to Compass agents who can share the listing directly with their clients. Then they have Compass Coming Soon, which is I authorize that by listing the property as Compass Coming Soon, the property may not be available on the MLS during that period, but will be available to anyone on Compass.com. I understand that pursuant to local MLS rules, Compass can publicly market the property without including digital ads and newsletters in this phase. And then they have to initial, I understand I can instruct Compass to submit my property to the MLS at any time I wish. And explains by not listing on the MLS, it's not distributed to other brokerage firms and other public websites, which could reduce the number of potential buyers who can learn about the property during any off MLS phase of the marketing. I mean, it's basically like a CYA with these 3 phases.
Okay, but it's select one, not we
Well,
start here,
I think
then
you
go
have
here,
to
then go here.
go through all three. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't see a lot of value in this to sellers unless they've got like a
Oh, you think
privacy
it's
issue.
you initial all of them, and this is our
It says, please select the options or option,
gotcha.
singular and plural below to instruct
Gotcha.
Compass what they want to do. So,
Gotcha.
it looks like the illusion of choice to me.
Right. Right.
So you got this form, and then you got the EXP form, which says limited buyer exposure. A large pool of qualified buyers may never learn about your property or may never learn that your property is listed for sale because your property has not been given full market exposure. With reduced market exposure comes reduced visibility. With reduced visibility comes reduced demand for your property. Financial risk. Limited market exposure may and likely will result in reduced competition for your property, and reduced competition means that you lessen your chances of receiving the highest sale price and best terms. Longer time on market. In many markets, residential properties listed with limited market exposure tend to stay on the market longer than those given full market exposure. This reality may adversely impact or otherwise frustrate plans to sell your property for the highest price and best terms within the shortest period of time. No public portals withholding your property listing from public portals such as Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, and Homes.com may reduce its visibility, limit the pool of potential buyers, and negatively affect your chances of achieving optimal sales terms and net proceeds. It's like, what do you like? You're seeing these, I'm guessing, for the first or second time here. What's your reaction to both of these forms?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think obviously Compass wants you to do the private exclusive. EXP doesn't. So
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think like everything else, it's all on how they position things. Now, I would be curious for Compass if they're going to have to update or have like an asterisk or something there specifically stating that if they go with either option 1 or 2 and they don't go straight to option 3, which is not doing the exclusive, that they will no longer be able to be on Zillow.
yeah, see, that's what I don't know. When I look at these forms, EXP looks like a disclosure. It's very similar to the MLS disclosure we have and the new PAR agreement. It's not an agreement; it's a disclosure about the changes with the NAR settlement
stuff,
and the policy stuff. Very clear and straightforward. Compass looks like, hey, this is the reason why this marketing plan works.
Right.
And it's more of a sales pitch than a disclosure. Like, I'd love it to say here, if I'm a consumer, I want to know if I'm on Zillow or not for the most part. And it doesn't really say that here. It says other public sites. You go on EXPs, they name them all.
Right.
Like they're talking about Redfin. That's a competing brokerage, right? Yeah. I mean, Zillow could be, some people view it as a competing brokerage, even though, there's a lot of EXP agents that have relationships there.
Like, I'd almost think that they would need to, for transparency, which if all of these are supposed to be about transparency, that there should almost be a spot to initial that says, if you go with option 1 or 2, you will not be on Zillow, even if you then go to option 3. Like, because if you're breaking down pros and cons, which they they did have a spot to initial that says that like your exposure won't be there or whatever. It's like they're giving like a little bit of like a, hey, there's a little bit of a risk here, or like whatever, initial here. If they're giving you a little bit of that, but then not fully giving the implications of it, that's like sneakier than not even having an initial section.
Well, I tend to agree. And so James DeWiggins, he's the co-CEO of Next Home, and he's been in real estate a long time. Next Home's a large brokerage. So he came and I love these comments, right? First comment, it's highlighted right at the top. It's 64 likes. This is a big Facebook group. One is a sales pitch for a 3-phased marketing plan pushing off MLS deals. The other is a disclosure about the risks of being off the MLS. The end.
Yeah,
I think that sums it up pretty well. A lot of people like that. And then some of these comments are a little crazy. I'll get into them in a second. There's going to be like a lawsuit here that happens. Now, it's not going to involve us. I mean, the NAR one involved everybody. When people have sour grapes and they feel like they lost money or they were taken advantage of, they're gonna get sued. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some lawsuit and you only need 2 people to make it a class action suit that feel like, hey, I got screwed with my proceeds because I went off MLS. And if that happens, this could all go away very clearly. Why I like EXP's form, it's very clear. Here's the risks. Like that's gonna, the people at EXP are pretty smart, and the people at Compass are smart too. I have a hard time with how they're trying to sell this. Like they're just not letting go. And in a world where we're supposed to serve consumers, it looks like Compass's strategy is very self-serving. Hey, we do off MLS deals. We'll sell more houses that way. We can use this as a recruiting tool because we have access to this database. That's what it sounds like to me.
Right. Do we know when the Compass one, is this like a newly updated one, or is this?
I think that's what they've been using for a while. I mean, I don't have all the details of it. But what I do know is consumers are confused. We were interviewing for a listing, which we didn't get, and we lost it to a Compass agent. And this story broke like the next day. And all these people talked about is it was an expired listing. Hey, I want to make sure we have the right marketing exposure. I want to make sure we get the best exposure. Our last agent didn't do anything. And then this comes out and they're like, oh, we're going private exclusive. We're doing this. And I said, you need to read this story.
Yeah.
Right. And what the seller told me was, had we known this was going to happen before we signed this agreement, this all happened within a couple of days, we would not have hired the other agent. And like, I could show you the text. Like it's right there. So if that's a seller feeling that way, James DeWiggins, what he's saying here is pretty accurate in my view, because this is why people don't trust real estate agents, because they're promoting what's better for them, not what's better for the consumer. And there's not a real clear understanding there, because we're talking about the same thing and it's presented totally differently.
Right. It almost seems as though like the seller advisory form would be more necessary for Compass to like be handing out like literally that form, versus like the one that they do.
I'll tell you, this is we're gonna have this form at some point. Like this is going to happen. I'm pretty clear on that, and it's frustrating. I mean, because I think some sellers don't know what they're getting into in a lot of cases, and we know that over 71% of sellers hire the first agent they meet with. So you can get someone really competent that meets with them, and this is what they're doing. It's unfortunate. I mean, it just seems very self-serving here, especially when we've got duties to consumers. And what I like about EXP's their advisory form here is getting the best price and the best terms in the shortest amount of time.
Right.
Like I'm in on that. I'm selling my house. That's what I want. I don't want to be on the market forever. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're on agreement here. You want to hear some of these other comments on this post? This is really good. All right. So this might be one of my favorites. When are we going to have the I'm a new agent and don't know what I'm doing disclosure? What about the I'm going to take all of your pictures of your house using my iPhone disclosure? And the best disclosure should be coming out. I'm an average agent and I sold 2 houses all of last year disclosure. These are ridiculous comments here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
It's pretty good. And then the other side of the argument is people think that this Zillow ban is like Zillow's out doing what's best for them, which I don't think there's any question about. That's how their whole business model is. Right. There's also data out there that shows the Zillow data, like saves and likes and those sort of things. They actually show you how fast your home's going to sell. So, there's got to be just that. Hey, here's the choices. Here's the positives. Here's the negatives. I like one page. I think that's really good. That should just come up from NAR. And this is where NAR is really lacking here. They're not making any comment. They just sat on the fence like they always do. And now we've got all this nonsense going on. It's the same thing that happened with the settlement. They just can't make any logical arguments or do anything to lead here. Right.
And I mean, I think that any brokerage, any company, whether it's regardless of like the field, they're obviously going to do things to position it to where it's best for them. Like that's business. That's a given. But given that supposedly transparency is supposed to be the name of the game in the industry right now, what everybody is looking for, I think just like some straight transparency and backing that would be important.
Yeah, that's how this NAR settlement came up in the first place. And I get everyone's running for-profit companies here. When you're supposed to be serving the consumer, like service is one of our core values, and it's serving our people and serving our clients. And if you do right by the consumer, usually good things happen. Like think about the calls you get. You just took a listing. It was a referral from somebody, and you know why you got that listing? Because you did the right thing the first time.
Right.
And you looked out for those people. And then they said, here, use Sarah. She knows exactly what she's doing. And I'd imagine there was a lot of trust as soon as you talked to the people.
Yeah.
So I mean and that's what I think a lot of people don't get about this business is that they feel like they were wronged. You're never getting any repeat business, and everything comes out when at the end, and people that lean into their sphere and the folks they know and treat them well and do the right thing, they're going to do well. All it really involves is just running an ethical business that's going to benefit people. So I think it is frustrating seeing this. I'm just going to keep focusing on doing that and not worry about this whole business model battle, like Sharon said last week. I just find this all fascinating here.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. This might be the biggest story of the show, Sarah. There is a Florida bill to get rid of the Florida State Real Estate Commission. This is insane to me. We'll talk about it next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about this bill in Florida. I mean, Florida's got some crazy laws in general. No income tax, like sign me up for that. But Florida's got some wild laws.
Sure.
And this bill coming out, it could shut down the state's real estate commission and shift its powers to a state agency. It's House Bill 1461. We're going to talk about that and what the repercussions could be. So if you get some value out of this or you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team and talk to Sarah specifically, she is an absolute pro. Hundreds of happy clients. You can reach her by clicking the link in the comments. So this bill is just wild to me. This is happening. So it was introduced by Representative Michael Yarkowski on February 28th. And this is typical with politics. No mention of the Florida Real Estate Commission when the bill's written. But then it all changes on April 7th when there's a 389-page amendment, right? Like,
Jesus.
I mean, I don't read books that long.
Right.
I mean, that's, and it added to eliminate the FREC, the Florida Real Estate Commission, entirely. It passed its first committee hearing on April 9th and advanced to a second one on April 16th. And they need one more committee vote before it moves to the House floor. And of course, NAR has said nothing. Surprise, surprise. So what the bill would do, they would abolish most professional boards and commissions operating under the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation, including the Real Estate Commission. And the responsibilities of licensure, enforcement, and disciplinary actions would be absorbed by the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. So I guess it's getting rid of it in general, but it doesn't specify how the DBPR would handle the Real Estate Commission's current workload, whether additional staffing would be provided, and how disciplinary matters would be managed. And Florida's got 320,000 active and more than 100,000 inactive licenses across the state. So, I mean, you're talking about 420,000 people you got to deal with. What's your reaction to that? This is mind blowing to me.
Yeah. I mean, they would be the only state to not have that, right?
Let's find out. I don't know.
And then wait, and what was the reasoning?
So I think that's there's no state where the Real Estate Commission is entirely absent, according to Google. Just so we know, after doing a little research here. So the reasoning behind this, the governor Ron DeSantis, he hasn't taken a public position. The Senate has to pass a companion bill or adopt the House version, and there's been no public statement by the Florida or by NAR, like we said. I mean, I don't know that there is any reasoning behind it. It's just wild to me. I mean, it seems like it's like some government pork that got thrown in there. Maybe they're trying to downsize government, like what's happening at the federal level,
right?
Getting rid of all these state boards. I get nervous. I mean, there's so much deregulation happening, and I feel like real estate's not that regulated in the first place. I mean, we just talked about all these like coming soon versus like all that stuff. And there's no mention of any state regulators, entering the picture here, which we didn't talk about, which could drastically change that debate if some states came out and took a position on it.
Right.
I don't get the thought process behind this here. I mean, the president of Florida Realtors Association, Tim Weishire, he spoke at the committee hearing to share the industry's, the organization's position on the bill, and he emphasized the importance of it. We're talking about the largest financial investment that families and individuals make in their lives, their home, the place they build wealth, and something that we know is really important to the fabric and fiber of every single community. I guess there is the state's broader goal of reducing regulation, and that's kind of the thought behind it. He even said, we understand the intent of the bill and what the state is trying to do with deregulation, but we believe that real estate is one of those that should be preserved, and the Florida Real Estate Commission should stand. So I guess it's all deregulation is what they're talking about.
Would this impact like getting your license?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Because so I don't know how Florida works. I know how Pennsylvania works, right? Like you pass the test, you send the background check in, you got to get a broker to say, I'm willing to work with this person. That's all through the state. That's through the Real Estate Commission. That's the governing body here. Like the local boards, they handle like mediation and realtor stuff, but you can be a real estate agent without being a realtor. That's what people don't realize. So I would imagine it's definitely going to affect that. And it's really slow getting your license as it is. Like, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I don't know how long it would end up taking.
Yeah, I guess I'm just like a little confused as to like what the benefit would be of, I mean, I get that like they want less regulations on things, but there are certain things that I feel like it makes sense to regulate. And like, particularly given where we've been for the last now several years in lawsuits, headlines, litigations, like all of these things for trying to raise the bar for real estate agents and transparency. I would think that this is like just moving in the opposite direction, but
I agree. Well, that's actually what there was the CEO of the Florida Realtors Association. There's a president and a CEO. Her name is Margie Grant. She said the Florida Real Estate Commission has been trusted and experienced partner to consumers and real estate professionals for more than 100 years. Eliminating FREC would have a significant negative impact on consumer protection and Florida's real estate industry, which is a major economic driver within their state. And there's a lot of people that like they'll be licensed in Pennsylvania and Florida. Like you see, probably more than any other state that I've seen besides like the tri-state area with like Delaware and Jersey. I'm sure you see stuff on the western side of the state as well. And when you look at this, it's just I think it's really concerning that NAR is not doing anything. I mean, think if they like think if they removed like the nursing license body, right? But I mean, like this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. Like real estate, I think gets thrown aside, and this is part of the problem with real estate is that people they don't take it seriously. But like you got to, my wife maintains her nursing license even though she's not practicing for a lot of reasons. I mean, God forbid I like drop dead and she needs a job. But like, imagine like the bar association, right?
Right.
I don't think people really get the impact here.
I'm almost wondering if there is some piece of it that is thinking about climate change and some type of regulation there for like what would be required. I haven't like formulated this all in my head yet, but
do you need a tinfoil hat for this?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. But hurricanes obviously impact Florida every year, more and more so. If by deregulating something with real estate, if it would like loosen things up or require less disclosures or make some type of loophole that I'm not sure what it is yet, but like, because I'm just trying to think why else you would want to take that, why you would want to remove that. Like, I feel like there has to be some other piece that we don't know.
I mean, unfortunately, this could be similar to the trade war everyone's talking about, where they're saying this to get something else done. And it's like government. I mean, this is the problem with government. A 389-page amendment, like, give me a break. I mean, it wasn't even in there in the first place. And that's usually how this stuff gets passed. So it's a 7-member commission. It's made up of brokers, agents, and everyday Floridians, and they are appointed by the governor, and they also handle rulemaking. And like disciplinary action, I think that's a big question. Like what happened? I mean, you don't want people that are that have no business practicing real estate.
This is who decides if you've got like a number of strikes against you, or
if you can hold a license or not. Yeah,
right. That's kind of important.
Well, but listen to the other stuff they're talking about getting rid of here. This is interesting. So they get hundreds of complaints filed with the real estate division each month. And then they get investigated by the division's 31 investigators. Depending on the outcome of a probable cause hearing, cases go before the commission. So, I've been investigated by the real estate commission once. We had all our documents. They walked out of the office, but like it's an invasive job, and they've got to track down these complaints. The complaint we had is that the seller didn't disclose something. I had a file this big. It was all there. It was fine. But what if someone didn't disclose something, right? Like,
Right.
That's the reason it's there. That's a real issue. And they're also, there's some other organizations that are targeted here. So it's the Board of Agriculture and Interior Design, the Board of Landscape Architecture, and the Construction Industry Licensing Board. So, they're all kind of related to real estate here.
Interesting.
I don't know. It's very odd to me.
Yeah, I'm just like processing.
Well, so the Florida Home Builders Association has come out in support of the bill, which I find fascinating. The International Association of Certified Home Inspectors and Florida Realtors were opposing, obviously, and the intent of the bill is deregulation, which I get. And now this is where NAR and realtor associations like your state association have some value, is the lobbying, right? They have 5 lobbyists working on the bill right now, according to state records. And NAR just referred the questions of the bill to the Florida realtors, which is nuts. This is where you need some leadership from NAR.
Right. Well, and I guess what would then prevent other states from following suit?
Well, so Florida is an extreme state with some of its law. They have crazy laws down there.
Yeah.
With gun laws and other stuff,
Yeah.
and not good or bad. They're wild, right?
Yeah.
I don't see Pennsylvania ever doing that.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some other states that maybe think about it. What they talk about, and it's they say the FREC is a regulatory body composed of experienced brokers, agents, and public members who understand the nuances of real estate transactions, ethics, and consumer protection. And this was from the American Real Estate Association. And they said replacing that expertise with generic bureaucracy weakens professional oversight and jeopardizes public trust.
Yeah.
This is wild to me.
Yeah. That's when I feel like, it's like, cool, deregulate until something goes wrong. And then it's like, why wasn't there anything that stopped this?
Well, what they said was this isn't deregulation. And this is from the American Real Estate Association. It's deprofessionalization. And the professional standards in our business, are lacking, if you ask me. That's another one of our core values for a reason. We've all dealt with those agents that they're like, how in the heck is this person allowed to practice real estate? And when you try to get rid of the people that are responsible for this, some of these complaints are valid, right? And you've got to be really, really careful here. This is dangerous. Forget clear cooperation and all the other stuff we talked about. When the state steps in, that's usually the final word on things. So I'm really surprised the home builders are supporting this. I guess they don't want to. They don't like real estate agents.
Yeah, I guess.
That's wild to me. I don't know. So we'll see what happens with this. There's 2 comments right now. One is, this is why all realtors need to invest in RPAC in order to protect homeowners in our industry. That's the lobbying. I think that's really smart. And that's why you need lobbyists. And that's what NAR was founded for, is to lobby to protect the interests of real estate agents, and why they have the association in the first place. So it'd be great if NAR would do something. I bet they don't. That's all we got for this week's episode. You want to follow Sarah? She's on Instagram. It's at Ty_TyTime. You can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD, at Tom Toole 3rd. And we're streaming live every week on YouTube, as well as on WWDB 860 AM. We'll catch you next week on Toole Time Real Estate Radio.